Welcome to How's That Working For You, a podcast for the therapy curious. I'm your host, Dr. Zoe Krupka. If you're working in one of the many fields of mental health, we've made this space for you. Come join us in some reflection on these often very strange jobs that we do, in the hope that we can really get to the heart of how to improve our work and our own sense of how to be who we are within it. This podcast is brought to you by the Karen Miller Institute. Karen Miller is founded on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge their deep, enduring connection to land, waters, and community. The legacies of colonization and the ongoing effects of institutional racism have enduring effects on the mental health and well-being of First Nations people, and we hold this continuing dispossession in our minds and hearts as we explore the question of how to improve our work in the mental health field. Karen Miller is more than just a not-for-profit organization. It's a vibrant community of students, clients, staff, alumni, and generous donors. Our hearts beat for better mental health, which has driven us for over 60 years. At CMI, we believe in a dynamic interplay between training, research, and clinical practice. These three pillars from our triple helix, each strengthening and informing the other. As a registered health promotion charity, we've been pioneers in counselling and psychotherapy in Australia. Our purpose is to enhance mental health through accessible psychological services and innovative professional education. That's where How's That Working For You comes in. This podcast is our way of sharing the extraordinary insights, anecdotes, and life lessons from the mental health field. We're pulling back the curtain to offer you a unique peek behind the scenes, aiming to deepen your understanding of this remarkable space. I'm a senior lecturer at CMI. I'm a feminist psychotherapist, supervisor, and researcher. I've worked in agencies, organizations, and private practice. I've trained in a number of modalities, including emotion-focused therapy and existential psychotherapy, and I have a primary interest in antidepressants. All right, so today's guest is Dr. Lou Cooper. Lou is an AHPRA registered supervisor, psychologist, an internationally accredited supervisor in emotion-focused therapy, and chair and head of training, or HOT, at the Australian Institute of Emotion-Focused Therapy. And Lou is, of course, the host of the Emotion Focused podcast, which you can find at emotionfocused.com. So good to have you here.
It's really lovely to be here. I'm a little embarrassed that you actually said.
So I really wanted to talk about conflict today because I hear so much about it from students. I hear so much about it in supervision. And because I think the question of conflict between you and a client in any mental health work is kind of central to the anxiety of so many practitioners, even seasoned ones, I imagine. So many of us fear it and we feel unprepared to handle it. And maybe, like me, we roll over too soon, like, submissive puppies when we're challenged, or we get defensive and fearful. And because I know your work is so deeply embedded in the care and attention to your therapeutic relationships, I'm really hoping you'll share some of the things that have helped you when you've really found yourself in a tussle with a client. Things that it would be good to know, things that have helped prepare you.
Yeah, I think as you were describing that, Zoe, when we're in a tussle, when we're really in conflict, we know we're in conflict. And that is very different from when things go wrong in the therapeutic relationship and we don't know that they've gone wrong. You talked about, seeing people in supervision who are really scared of that conflict or in it and not knowing how to deal with it. But I think more commonly we see people where there's been a rupture in the relationship, but the therapist isn't aware that that's actually what the problem is.
So the person who's kind of just not come back or is becoming more withdrawn in sessions, maybe sharing less and So the conflict's more underground, more hidden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, both are difficult, but I think when there is conflict, I mean, if a client stops coming, we need to really grant them autonomy, obviously ensure that they are safe if that's a concern.
Yeah.
But we don't go chasing.
It's interesting, that one. I wonder
Maybe you
about
do.
that. No, not necessarily, no, but it always makes me think about a conversation I had with a hairdresser years ago, and he said to me, it's impossible for somebody to tell you in the moment when you ask them, no, I hate it. When they say, how's this? And they bring the mirror out, how hard it is to say, no, I don't like it. They just don't come back. And I said, that is just, it is so like our work. And he said, we've got this new kind of program where we ring people up and say, it's okay if you didn't like your last haircut. Come back.
You can tell me.
You can come back, and and we can try again. And I remember all those years ago it making me think about how difficult it was to reach out to a client where that things have gone off the rails, maybe, to say, I'm just checking in, and how it is that you make it more comfortable for somebody to say, what you said to me last session really upset me.
Yeah, I think that's a really hard thing to do. I mean, we need to issue that invitation, if you want, to give people an invitation to do that. And the easiest way, I think, of doing that is by looking at what's happened and owning our own part in it as therapists. So by saying sorry for whatever might have been our part in it, because we are 50% of what happens in the room.
Yeah.
So there is always something that we could have done better. Yeah. And if we are able to do that, I remember doing that with a client once who had disappeared and had come back really bravely with a notebook full of what they wanted to say to me.
Oh, how great.
They were prepared, right? And that really speaks to, I'm getting shivers as I think about it, because it was a really special moment for both myself and for the client at the time, and really useful. So they sat down and they started kind of reading. I could see that they were really nervous. And I knew that I had done something wrong. I won't go into what I'd done.
Yeah.
But it was around disclosure and confidentiality. And they'd started reading the list, and I just apologised. And I just said, I'm so sorry for what happened. That wasn't okay. And they burst into tears and said, no one has ever apologised to me before, and that wasn't what I was expecting. And they put their book away and we resumed therapy. And that for them was a really pivotal moment, and I had checked in if they were okay. Yeah. I'm thinking of someone else I work with who I think stopped coming maybe 3 times. And each time when they came back, which is incredibly brave.
Yeah.
It was a moment of kind of, oh my God, it's okay to come back. And you're accepting me, even though I had a bit of a tanty and walked out on you.
Yeah.
So really important moments in therapy.
And it's funny, when you're talking about it, I have a hard time imagining, and I'm someone who's spent most of my life in therapy, I think. I have a hard time imagining how you keep going without those ruptures, without those, and not just that they happen, but that you're able to manage them. And the examples that you're giving really make me think that what we don't teach enough is how deepening they can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like they are in a friendship when you have an argument. You can only go so many years being friends before you have to fight about something.
Yeah, and if you don't, there's
Mm.
probably somewhere in there's an avoidance of something probably really important.
Yeah.
You know, there's a masking of something,
Yeah.
and the relationship isn't going to work very well. And that's where there may be that lack of awareness. There is a rupture. It's an ongoing rupture, but the work isn't going anywhere
Yes.
because of it.
Yeah.
So
they might not be gone, but we're stalled.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
stalled. And just from someone kind of withdrawing their openness, they can sometimes just hear it in their voice that there is a change, and unless we're really tuned into our client, we may not notice that.
Yeah. That little micro expression that they
Yeah.
have when you say that thing you always say, whatever it is. So when you're talking to somebody in supervision about this and you're thinking, okay, there's some impasse here, what do you find supports people to, I don't know, be courageous in that space? I know sometimes that can be really difficult to say to somebody, no, you got to go in there. What's helpful for people?
I think one of the things that we have to do first is check in with ourselves.
Yeah.
So to make sure that we are grounded in ourselves, that we are really present to our client when we do this, if we're going to do this, because we don't want to be doing this from a defensive position.
Yeah.
We don't want to be explaining ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember one time I called a client by the wrong name.
Oh, God.
I was devastated. I don't think I'd ever done it before.
Yeah.
And I went into this explanation of why I might have done this, including, and afterwards I thought that actually was completely wrong. And the next session, there was a repair, which was something like, what was it like for you when I did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So acknowledging what happened for them rather than looking after myself and trying to excuse
I can't believe I did that.
And trying to, getting caught up in that rather than going into my place of shame, really, if I was going to go anywhere. I've forgotten what your question was.
Oh, just how do you help people? And so, it sounds like you're saying, okay, whatever it is that helps to kind of ground you in that space so that you're not kind of reacting straight from that shame of having, made a mistake.
Yeah.
But also it sounds like you're saying in that there's also the sort of magic of being able to say, tell me about how that was. I don't know how that was. Maybe that was minor for you and maybe it was hugely wounding, but almost like you're setting up this ongoing protocol of tell me about what this is like here with me.
Yeah, this is about you and your experience when that happened. And I think we can only do that, because we do have sex and we do, worry about what we did and all that sort of stuff. So we need to be in a grounded space to be able to comfortably just be open, really. Just be open about what happened and be curious about what happened for the client in that moment. Because in that way they are validated, their experience is validated in it, rather than it just all being about the therapist.
Yeah.
As it was
in that moment,
that I just
of course.
you.
Well, yes, my reaction was, oh, yes, I do remember doing that awful, awful feeling. It also feels like, too, to support people to really go through that process with somebody that, I might feel my feeling about having gotten someone's name wrong, for instance. But there's so much in what the client tells me about what it was like for them.
Yeah.
And even what they're assuming about me when I do it.
Yeah.
That feels like it can be so important.
Yeah.
But when you talked about that, I thought, well, this is partly why, I wanted this podcast, because I feel better now about my experiences of getting clients' names wrong, which I think has happened to me a couple of times, just talking to you about it. Because I think in that moment there's also that feeling of I'm the only person in the world who's ever made such a terrible mistake.
I mean, I knew that we were going to be talking about our mistakes, really, in terms of relationship. And I sat and thought for a while. Initially I thought, I don't really have them. And then I thought, of course I do. Of course I do. And then, of course, there's all the times that there's been a relationship issue that I haven't noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've had the experience of someone and you go into this process of trying to work out what went wrong or what you might have done, and then 2 years later a new client arrives and you ask them, how did you find me? And they say, oh, so-and-so suggested you.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, and all of a sudden it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to be, I don't know, I think we need to be more open about, that's what.
Yeah.
Did I just give you some supervision?
You gave me some supervision. This is so good. Yeah. But I'm thinking also when you're talking that when you're teaching people and you're teaching people as well, that I think we still teach about ending therapy like it's ending well. It's kind of the conscious uncoupling of Gwyneth Paltrow and whatever his name was, when in reality so often it's not like that. People leave when they have enough, they don't say, or there's a rupture or there's a move or something, and like you say, we often don't know. And it might be, like you say, years later when someone says, oh, so-and-so sent me to you. And you think, oh, okay, thank goodness that was all right.
Yeah. It was all right.
Yeah. That maybe one of the functions of supervision that you're talking about is that trying to make sense of those relationship endings where you don't ever get the answer.
Yeah, I don't think we teach this very well at all. I mean, we may teach, a last session.
Yeah.
Right, a closure session. How often do you have that with a client? It's actually not that often.
No.
And also, I can't remember where this number comes from. I'd like to be able to quote the research. But I remember being told that the most common number of sessions that clients attend is 4.
Yes. Whether that's the average or the mean, I don't know. But yes, I have heard that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll see if I can source that, because I know that it does exist in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Sometimes people will come to therapy and they may have even just one session that is enough to move them on.
Yeah.
Wherever they are. Doesn't mean that everything's solved.
Yeah.
Or everything's resolved, I should say. But sometimes that's all that's needed, for someone to be seen for 50 minutes can be incredibly powerful. And 4 of those sessions even more so.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be more aware sometimes of the fact that what we do is quite extraordinary for some people. It's not a relational experience that most people coming to therapy have ever had before in their lives.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's really powerful. But also because of that, it can go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's something maybe in what you're saying that makes me think, we often talk about this in terms of what goes wrong, but it makes me think of somebody who said to me years ago, I don't know that you realize, but this is like a Lebanese meal, like this is like a feast. Like I leave here and I'm so full. And I think, okay, is there a part of us that are going, but look, there is so much more that we can do. And sometimes people are going, that's enough for me to chew on for the next, 12 months. So if these kind of, if you think about them as inevitable, this sort of rupture and repair, can you take us through maybe some of the steps that you would, like if you're trying to break it down, when it isn't hidden, when it's kind of there in the room, what do you think are the key steps to take in that process?
Well, the first step is have the awareness that it's happened.
Yeah,
There's something here
notice.
that is relational.
Yeah.
And the next step is to find a way to communicate that to the client in a way that is gentle, tentative. Yeah. I just noticed that when I asked you that, or I just noticed as we're talking, it feels like something's changed. Or it feels like there may be something that you want to say to me, or something that you're wanting from me, or whatever it may be, but it needs to be very tentative so that the client can say, even if it's not true, no, everything's fine, right? Because they may not be ready to, if you want, go there.
Yeah.
So we need to be very gentle and tentative in the way that we make this process observation about what has happened in the process between us.
Yeah.
And having said that, we need to take our part and suggest that whatever it might be, maybe I'm pushing you too hard, or maybe you're kind of picking up on that I'm actually not feeling very well.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry that I didn't cancel the session,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, right? Whatever it is, to own your part, because it may be the first time that anyone has ever done that in any major or minor form of conflict for them. So we're kind of modelling that, and then inviting them, I guess, to do the same. But again, really gently, because they may not be ready to do that or able to do that.
Yeah.
It's a particularly vulnerable moment. I mean, we are modelling vulnerability in taking responsibility for our part, and then kind of see where that goes, just follow where that goes, and reflect back after that process, reflect back on actually what we just did then.
Yes. Yeah.
To allow the client the opportunity to reflect themselves on what that experience was like, to sort of have this guided repair, if you want.
Yes.
Because they may never have experienced it before.
Yeah.
I mean, as a therapist, I would like to say that I did that all the time, in my personal life.
Yeah.
Right? That I could be grounded and, go through these steps. Not true at all.
No.
But that, I guess, is in therapy, when we have our therapist hat on, kind of is our responsibility to be able to take that lead.
And do you think, I mean, obviously there is going to be parallels, if not sort of a complete crossover, in personal and professional life. But I think one of the things we don't talk about a lot is, I mean, I think we do say...
Oh, you're going to ask me a personal question?
No, I promise not.
Is your life perfect, Lou?
Yeah, is your life Lou's life is perfect, just in case anybody was wondering. I think we talk about, I can do this as a therapist, but I'm so crap at home, or you should see me with my kid or my partner. But actually, I don't know if you find this. I have found working things through with clients, not just in my own therapy, but with clients, has really helped me. There's been many occasions where I've thought, wonder if this is how my kid feels. I've never thought that I come across that way, or it's been really helpful to me.
Yeah.
Have you ever found that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of person is going to say, I don't learn anything from this other human sitting opposite me?
Yes. Yeah.
There are so many learning opportunities for us, because every client that sits opposite us is unique, and yes, there may be patterns, but there is always something to learn. I mean, part of the reason for being in this profession, I guess, is endless curiosity for the human condition.
Yeah.
you know, what's it like being you?
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll never really know.
No. But you do get a much broader experience over time about the different, particularly in terms of what we're talking about now, the different ways that people can feel pushed out or marginalized or hurt or abandoned or any of those things, and not just different to us but so different to each other.
Yeah.
I wonder if you notice particular things that have gotten better for you, like, you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you know, how you manage when people treat you disrespectfully or aggressively. Like, I find that I was really bad at that. I had a really high bar for emotional abuse, I would put it. I put up with a lot, and I learned to put up with less. But I wonder about, you know, you, how have you handled that? I know we've all experienced some of it.
Yeah, I think what helps me in those situations is to go back to watching the process. You know, actually what is happening for this person in this, and it's usually that they just don't feel safe.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we can use terms like defensiveness or resistance, or, you know, the kind of, there's a blaming quality to them.
Yes.
Right? Rather than this person in this moment felt so vulnerable, did not feel safe, and we're the only person there.
Yeah.
You know, what else are they going to do in that situation? Of course they're going to kind of have a stab at you in some way.
Yeah.
Right? Of course they are. And, you know, it isn't okay for us to be abused. That isn't okay. But before we go to that point and call it that, we need to try and understand what is going on for them.
Yeah.
Because it's unlikely that they're going to feel great about it afterwards, you know?
Yeah. That it's a you know, it's a rupture in itself, but also a precursor to it. How do I handle that, I guess, aggression or that disrespect in a way that is not shaming, even if I'm setting a limit about.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we need to be able to set boundaries around our work and our relationships with clients. We need to be able to set those boundaries. And I think the better we do that, the less likely there is that there's going to be some kind of attack on us. Because, you know, it may be the first time that boundaries have ever been set for that person. So doing that in itself helps to create some safety, some predictability. So the kind of attack is going to be less likely, I think.
I was thinking about what you said in terms of, you know, really noticing the process. And I think it was in that show Couple Therapy. I don't know if you've watched that, where she has that beautiful dog who is really there for her. It's not a therapy dog for the other people. And one of her clients, who can be reasonably aggressive with his partner, says to her at some point, "Oh, I watch the dog because I know when I start to raise my voice, the dog looks over at you to see if you're okay." And that tells me I'm cycling up. And it really struck me. I thought, you know, I think part of what I was afraid of early on was to help somebody notice what was happening, to point out to them, you know, in a loving way, you know, what's going on now, when that sort of defensive anger or rage was beginning to...
Yeah, when that happens.
Yeah.
And because it isn't nice for the client.
No.
It's unregulated. They're likely to be in a state of overwhelm. And that doesn't always mean that there isn't something that we need to repair, we need to take responsibility for.
That's right.
Yeah. Because I'd suggest that often we have left the client sort of hanging in the wind, you know, in some way.
I didn't notice how distressed you were becoming.
Yeah. And how could we work with this better in the future? Because the likelihood is the client is going to think, well, that therapist is never going to see me again.
Yeah.
I've blown it.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we can, I'm not saying we do that all the time, because there's only so much that we really should take, if you want, particularly if it becomes a physical aggression.
Yeah.
But to be able to say, okay, that wasn't great. How can we do that better? What happened? How would you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And to work collaboratively on it. This is actually why they've come to therapy, probably.
Yeah, sometimes it's the main game, isn't it?
Yeah. So they are going to want, or perhaps we would like to give them a different experience in therapy than they get out in the world.
Yeah.
You know, someone who is marginalised, for instance, doesn't want to be feeling marginalised in therapy.
In the room. No. So for you, how many of these skills do you think, like, how much of this has come from your own supervision or your own experience being a client, your training? Like, how would you sort of parcel that out, this kind of, where did I learn this?
Well, I didn't learn it from doing a psychology degree.
No.
Yeah?
No.
I didn't learn it there. I think you learn it from experience. I think that you have to sort of have enough people go through your therapy room.
Yes.
And you have to be willing to take the things that you find problematic to supervision and be vulnerable in supervision. So have a supervisor where you feel you can be vulnerable and talk about the things that you did badly, you feel, or the things that are really bothering you that you feel shame about. And it's often therapist shame that prevents, I think, early career therapists in particular from taking these pieces to their supervisor. You know, it's a supervisor's responsibility to make sure that supervision isn't just about the therapist bringing their best work and having a pat on the back.
Yes.
I mean, that's nice too. It's very important in therapy that you can take these pieces and to have thought about them beforehand. I mean, I think our own reflection is probably the most valuable thing that we have, that we need to learn to reflect on our work, reflect on what has happened, reflect on our clients and our relationship with our clients, with or without the help of a supervisor. So I think that it's that reflection that in the end is consistently helpful. Yeah. Because we can't go running to our supervisor after everything that goes wrong.
No, as much as many people would like to. But that space that you're not just coming to supervision, you're not just coming to a supervisor that you trust enough to share your shameful experiences, your mistakes, your real distress, but that you've taken that time before you meet to have your best, deepest reflection yourself, so that what you're doing in supervision is, enriched by your supervisor.
Yeah, for sure. Rather than kind of wanting the supervisor to tell you what you should have done.
Yes, and unpack it all. Yeah. What about finding one? I really find when I talk to people about supervision, it's not so hard to talk about finding a therapist, what someone's looking for, who's out there. But there's a lot of confusion about how do I find a supervisor like that? Maybe because people put a bit less care into it, or...
I think sometimes people don't feel that they have... Well, some people don't have choice.
Yes, this is true.
If you work for an organisation, this is your supervisor and that's it. You have no choice. That person may also be your manager, which makes being vulnerable very difficult.
Impossible at times, yeah.
Ask around, phone a friend kind of thing. Ask around. Find out as much as you can about someone you might be approaching for supervision. Yeah. And try give people a trial. And again, as a supervisee, it's hard for a supervisee to say to a supervisor, this isn't working.
Yes.
There's a rupture here.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So finding, where you look
Mm.
is difficult, but if you work in a particular modality, to kind of go to, if there's an association, if there's somewhere, if there's a school where you learned, to ask around there,
Yeah.
to start kind of with what you know. And it may take some time.
Yeah.
And of course now we can go overseas if we want.
I know, how great is that?
Yeah, we can go overseas. So if we want a supervisor that is sort of out of our sphere, so there's no conflicts, go overseas.
I'm just thinking about this, how little we're taught this in our supervision training as well. Certainly not as much in our, in psychology training, and even to some extent in counseling and psychotherapy training, the real nitty-gritty of conflict can sometimes be left behind, and certainly in supervision as well. And what strikes me when you're talking about supervision too is that there isn't an assumed end of the supervisory relationship either, in the same way that there is in a therapeutic relationship. So
yeah, it can go on and on
yes.
and on. I mean, I often suggest to people that I supervise,
yeah,
you might like to have a look around.
Yes.
Kind of do a review once a year.
Yeah.
Like, how's it going? Do you want to continue? And I often suggest to people,
go try.
you might want to go and find someone else.
Yeah.
I've only got so many tricks in my box if you want.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm going to say after a while.
Yes.
Or, you know how I'm going to invite you to work with this. Try someone else. I mean, it's because you're right. There isn't an end to it.
Yeah, but for helping your supervisee facilitate that, and that permission to date other people.
Yeah. I mean, I think I tend to use a bit of humour if I can in that, say, I won't cry much, right?
Yeah.
But allow people to sort of find some levity in that. I mean, it's the same with, we're talking about conflict. It's the same with, you teach, I teach, that sometimes students may have gripe with you as a teacher, as a trainer. And the same goes for that we need to be open to that, because often, sometimes it might be that they got out of bed the wrong side that morning.
Yeah, or I did.
But exactly. Yeah. But often it's that we actually have done something that didn't land very well, and we need to take responsibility for that. I find those moments really instructive, and really, I don't know, to go through that process with, I think it's great for me.
Yes.
But it's great for them as well,
Yep.
to see me go through it with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes for other people even to witness that. Yeah.
And there's other times, I can remember leaving a training session one day and thinking, I was so dogmatic. Why was I so dogmatic in that moment?
Yeah.
And waiting for that to come back to me in an evaluation.
Yes.
And looking at the looking for it, and there it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I get Zoe's got the finger. Somebody says, I start to raise my hand when the dogma comes out. Yeah, it's good to have that invitation of reflection, and like you say, that, well, I suppose that feedback is really kind of the core of what you've been talking about, how to, reflect on it internally, how to invite it, how to deal with it in a welcoming way, an exploratory way.
Yeah. Or how to do your best in that. Yeah. Because we all stuff up.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And I think over time I've got better. I like to think I've got better acknowledging and being with my own stuff ups.
Yeah.
Rather than going to that place of shame.
Yes.
Which inhibits our ability to be open what's happened often.
It's been so helpful to talk to you about this. I so appreciate it. I think that's such a big part of this for me are the conversations that we don't have enough about this, that we don't hear enough about this. And I think it's really generous of you to share that with me today.
It's been delightful, Zoe. It's been delightful to see you, but it's also been delightful to have this space to reflect on this, because that's kind of what we need to be doing all the time.
I think
so. This has provided that space for me, so thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for listening to How's That Working For You, a podcast for the therapy curious. This has been your host, Dr. Zoe Krupka. This podcast is a space for open conversations, but it's important to remember that what you're hearing are the personal experiences and thoughts of me and our guests. While we're here to share insights, please don't take any of this as advice. We're all wonderfully unique, so if you have therapeutic concerns, it's best to chat with your healthcare professional.
This podcast was brought to you by the Cairn Miller Institute. For more information about our organisation, the services we offer and how to donate, visit our website at cmi.edu.au. You can find links and more information about each guest in our episode show notes. Find us on all major podcast platforms and stay tuned for more inspiring episodes.